Hey guys, welcome to the Prowler Podcast. Today we're thrilled to have Coach Phillips with us. We're ready to dive into his experience with the recruiting process as the head football coach at West Morgan. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome Coach Phillips. And if you don't mind introducing yourself and sharing more about your background, Coach, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me on. I grew up in Killen, Alabama, and played ball there, and then went to University of North Alabama, and wasn't fortunate enough to play football at the collegiate level, but pursued my dream of being a coach, and I coached at Randolph School for 3 years in Huntsville, a private school there, and then was at Athens High School for 8 years, and also served there as offense coordinator, and then got offered the job to be the head coach at West Morgan High School, where we just finished our third season, where we were 5-5 year one, 10-2 year two, and then 12-1 year three. So, really looking forward to this off season and what this next team's gonna bring to the table.
Right, that's awesome, Coach. And some side points. My brother, the founder of the Prowler, he's obtained a very strong recruiting relationship with Coach Phillips, where the Prowler has contributed to a huge success of some of his former and current athletes. And some key points on Coach right here. He finished the 2023 season with only one loss, as he said, 12-1, and which came in the playoffs to Cherokee County. They went on to be the state runner-up 4A in Alabama, and he has had non-athletes sign with us, and we carried on, and they signed their intent to play at the next level, and the Prowler assisted 5 of those athletes. So I'm gonna ask some questions to you, Coach, and we'll get going here. And so, what were your original thoughts of the recruiting services, like after you met our founder Preston for the Prowler? How did that view switch of the recruiting process?
Well, honestly, when I first heard of, and I told Preston this, but when I first heard of recruiting services, that word kind of scares people away, because you have fear of, what are their intentions. And, from the first couple of minutes of talking to him and about what you guys do at the Prowler, and the reason why he does what he does in order to help people, it immediately sold me on what, his goal was and what he was trying to accomplish. And ultimately, which is the goal of our program and as coaches, is to make a difference. And I noticed that very quickly on with him. And and that separated, the Prowler, you guys, from everybody else for me, because of the reasoning for it. It wasn't, hey, look at me. It was how can we serve these athletes to be better? And obviously, you guys are going to benefit, which you should. But at the end of the day, the Prowler does it for all the right reasons, and and that's what I'm very thankful for and grateful for. So that was my first initial thoughts and experience with you guys.
Right, and that's kind of how we want to do things. We want to be there to assist these athletes to better them as a person and an athlete on and off the field. And so I guess what would you tell other athletes and coaches about the Prowler?
Man, I would say just really, I understand the way you feel when you hear the word recruiting services, but give them a shot. Listen. Preston shows up at our signing day. He shows up at game day. He texts me on game day. He wants that relationship, and he's always checking in on the guys. He's getting to know them as people, and our players, most importantly, believe in him and believe in the Prowler. And that's what I would say. It's very affordable, which is very important, and I think that's something that again just demonstrates the kind of character that is within the walls of what you guys do. So, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and we really just want to interrupt here real quick, but yeah, Coach, we're definitely going for that more personal feel, like you said, because at the end of the day, the recruiting services, if you go the NCSA route, all you're doing is putting your name in the portal that they have on the interface, and you're not getting much recognition through it, right? We want to be more hands-on as always, and try to give a more hands-on feel to the parents and the player, because at the end of the day, they are spending their money to try to get their kid to the collegiate level, and we don't want to just throw money to a program that doesn't see a goal at the end of the day, right? I've seen it happen with my brother. coming out of high school. With my parents, it happens across the board. Parents throw money nonstop at services that never see a benefit. So we're definitely trying to tailor that, and also try to tailor players not give up their hope, because the transfer portal, as nowadays, which Will's going to touch on in a little bit, is that just because you don't get that D1 recognition off the bat, you got the talent. You just got to go groom yourself at a D2, D3 school, even in JUCO, and you can get to that level. So that's what we're also trying to persuade athletes to know, because that dream's there. It's just different nowadays, right? So,
yeah, and honestly, the story, Preston, you talking about your brother Will, that was personable for me, enough for me to see your passion with him. And so, just adding to what I would say to somebody that were, looking into the Prowler is, listen to the story because it's meaningful and it's real, and that's what we need.
And as Preston said, we're trying to groom these athletes to be the best they can be, and not to overthink the recruiting process, and not think that, you need to throw money at these big organizations, to get recognition and stuff. So Coach Phillips, talking about that, what advice would you give high school athletes when starting the recruiting process? Like, what would you recommend them start? Like, how early would you recommend them start the recruiting process?
Honestly, I would say as early as you can afford. With the way the recruitment process is now, it's all about getting your name out there, all about making sure your social media is where it needs to be, and all the things that you guys assist our athletes with, and how to organize their social media, when to post, who to tag. And I think getting it started as early as possible, because you got to learn as to what you're trying to do and accomplish. It isn't just putting a highlight film out there. It's making sure it gets in the hands of the right people. And that's been what you guys have done. And so, I would say as quickly as possible if you're serious about it.
Right. And
yeah, I agree on that, Coach Phillips. And you definitely want to keep your social media as clean as possible too, because coaches are going to look at that more in depth. And that's what we try to make our goal is, not to come across to make an athlete try to be perfect, but they definitely want to keep a certain critique, and make sure you always, any kind of invite you receive, always expose it. Like one of your athletes right now, Todd Jones, he's getting so much recognition right now due to him always following the process that we teach him. And to any camp invite he get, junior day invite, always share it, because more exposure you get on that social media platform where more coaches can view what you're being exposed to at the current time, will just pull in more coaches to be noticed of you, so.
Sure.
So, Coach Phillips, if you don't mind talking about it, what do you put your players through? Like, what steps do you take to try to put your players in a good position within the recruiting process? Like, what do you teach them and tell them, and how do you explain to them what approach do you tell them to take when talking to coaches?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with them. I got to know they're serious about wanting to do it. If you're not showing up to school on time and your grades are not where they're supposed to be, but you're saying you want to play college football, I'm not going to stand on the table for anybody if their habits are not matching their goals. And so, I think it starts with the player first. So that's the first and foremost thing that we talk about is how serious, are you about doing this? And then the next thing that I do when I realize that they are, is we have a recruiting coordinator, Cameron Dorflinger, who does a really good job for us at West Morgan of getting our guys emails out there, as far as some as their, their links to their Twitter and their highlight video. And he has a spreadsheet for that. So we put them down on the spreadsheet. But really what we do, guys, is we point them to y'all. When I got parents that are wanting to know, Coach, how can I get my kid? He has a goal to play. The first thing I do is I forward the Prowler, Preston, you guys, I forward that number right over to them, and I share it. I've shared that with many people, athletes that are not in our program, because I want what's best for, young guy, young people, and it matters to me. So, quickly figuring out, all right, if it's something they're serious about, making sure their habits are where it needs to be, because I don't want to send off a number or send somebody to you guys that I don't believe in. And so I put it in them first, in their hands. And then, man, they want to do it. They're going to get your number. And, and then they go from there. And I tell them that I believe in you guys. I believe in what y'all are doing. And so that's the steps that we take. We get our guys to camp throughout the summer. We provide transportation for the guys that don't have it. So that's things that we're doing in order to try to help our guys with recruiting. Our coaches, coaches come through. One collegiate coach came through today, and they watch us lift, watch us work out. And, and so sit and talk with those coaches and just build relationships with coaches at the collegiate level, maybe go watch practices and all, and get to know them to where, when they do reach out about a player, I'm able to tell them some things. But guys, they reach out because they see what, most of them are seeing what you guys are doing for our players. And, I'm not getting paid any money to say all this. To be honest with you, I'm not going to say it because I'm not getting anything out of this except the most important thing, which is our players getting opportunities. And so I point them to you guys. And I know I've said that a couple of times and I'm rambling, but I do believe in it, believe in what the Prowler's doing.
And speaking on the recruiting process and everything, what are your thoughts of the transfer portal, like in college? Do you think it's playing a factor in the athletes being recruited out of high school? Because a lot of these coaches talk about, they're like, why not instead of taking a chance on a high school kid, why not take a chance on somebody that's already developed and prove they have good grades and prove like they can, go on a team and perform well? What are your thoughts on do you think the transfer portal is affecting these high school athletes getting recruited?
I think it definitely is. The way it used to be was, your juniors were heavily recruited and also your seniors. And now your seniors in high school are basically juniors of old in high school. And so, I think it's negatively affected, our the high school recruiting for sure, because, like you said, not only a guy with more experience, but, you're talking about a guy that's 19 years old as opposed to a 17-year-old. Well, the body is totally different there. And so, I think a lot of coaches are going there first. And, I think it's negatively affected recruiting. However, with that being said, you mentioned Ty Jones earlier. He got a Division I offer last week, and he's not a senior yet. He's still in his junior year of school, and that that's not heard of a lot. And so we're very excited about that opportunity and for him and all. But I do think it's affected recruiting negatively. But the edge that we got to get to is okay, how can we get as much exposure as possible? And it's the things that you guys are trying to do that fight that battle that we're all facing as high school coaches.
Right. You have to adapt to the new age of stuff. Everything's changing. You have to adapt to it. And so that's part of life. You just got to adapt to everything that happens. So,
no, that's for sure correct, Coach Phillips. And a prime example of that is Shamarvy and Mosley from you last year. That kid's no doubt an FCS level safety, at least, and even the Faulkner coach messaged me and clearly said that to me. And what I told him is when he signed there, I was like, go ball out your freshman year and you're at NAI level. You're not using your eligibility for NCAA. Now, do they have regulations for you transferring out of NAIA? Yes, they do. But as long as you keep your grades up, they can't deny that. And that kid's got the ceiling ahead of him. As long as he keeps his head on straight, we'll see him on FCS field one day for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it's like you're saying, Will, it's the way it is. And, we gotta go on and move on. And Shamarvion, man, you said it. The guy's ceiling is almost, and he's still growing. The guy's in the weight room every day. And his body's filling out. He's going to be really good, and we're very proud for him.
Yeah, I've never seen a kid have a motor like that kid's got. The kid flies across that field for sure.
You can't deny hard work. You see the kids, working hard, and they're doing all the things they can do. They're going to get recognized. So, with that being said, Coach Phillips, with your team coming up this next year, I know you had a great team last year. Well, this team coming up this year, which athletes should coaches be on the lookout for this year at West Morgan? And are y'all looking to build off of that remarkable past season? Great last season. Are y'all looking to build off of that at all? Or, I mean, obviously you are, but what are you looking forward to most?
I think this team has developed a little chip on their shoulder. Naturally, we lost 17 seniors, and all of them contributed very heavily and played for several years. So, we got a lot of guys coming back that have played in some big games, especially linemen. We're very excited about the returners we have in our box play as far as our O-line and D-line and inside backers and, some outside backers. We got to replace a lot of skill, and we realize that offensively, but we're really excited. We got some guys that it's kind of like they've been waiting their turn,
Right.
They've been behind some really explosive players, and what they've done a really good job of is sustaining, the course, staying with it. And now it's their time, and it's going to be names that people hadn't heard of, but they can play. We're very excited about, Makari Johnson. He's going to be a junior, athlete. Sean Tapscott, Kalen Daniels, Tyshawn Tucker, Jalen McGuire. Of course, you mentioned Ty Jones earlier, and Cole Thorne's a returner for us, and guys that a lot of people hadn't heard of. But shoot, I can tell you this: if they stay healthy, they're gonna make a lot of noise, and also, we're just really excited about this team and the edge that I think they're gonna play with, because a lot of people, maybe don't know who some of those players are, but we embrace that and look at it as, man, what an opportunity to do something great.
And you talk about Sean Tapscott, coach. That kid's already getting recognition by a lot of D1 invites at camps and stuff. And I mean, heck, if you look at who he set behind the past 2 years with Jeremy Strong and the kid that went to UNA for you, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I think it's Jeremy Fletcher. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jalen
Fletcher. Yeah, I mean, heck, that's the D1 running back there, and another kid that probably could be D1, but got to go prove himself at a JUCO level, right? So, he's been beyond two top running backs. Will can relate to that. He was beyond two running backs that's in the NFL now. So it's
So you had starting off freshman year, Tyler Beatty, most explosive running back. It's not a bad thing to wait your turn. You have to look at it in a positive way. Tyler Beatty and then Jabari, and then there was other talented kids underneath them that went and played college ball, like Marlon and Carrington Kelsey, and just learning from all that. They teach you so much, and kids that are waiting their turn, they don't need to get down about it. They need to look at it as like, hey, look, these guys, they're really good. Like, you need to learn from them and just develop a chip on your shoulder while you're waiting to get your turn. And once you get your turn, go out there and prove yourself. And I think it's all just opportunity. Learn as much as you can while you're waiting.
Yeah, I mean, Kalen Daniels is another guy that's just Duke can play, and he's about to blow up. Jabari Wiggins, another player. I mean, other guys who you look at, a year or 2 years ago, and you go, man, what are they going to be? And you just never know what a kid can be. It's just fun to see the growth in the weight room this off season. So, I can't say enough about our team. I'm very excited about them.
And you really see how those kids are going to do, like in the weight room, like how hard they're working, what their mentality is in the weight room, and if they want to get better, they're going to prove it in the weight room. So, with that being said, thank you, Coach, for coming on, and thank you all for tuning into the Prowler Podcast. And we look forward to continuing to expand your awareness of our platform, and we look forward to partnering with those who are serious about playing their sport to the next level. And do you have any closing remarks right now about anything we talked about, or?
Yeah, just to sum it up, man, I appreciate you guys, and appreciate you doing it for the right reasons. I really do, and it's and I'm not preaching to you, but man, I guess I challenge you and myself to always try to remain in that mindset, because man, that's it's most important. So and you can sustain it that way. I fully believe that in anything you do. But to the Prowler, appreciate y'all very much.
No, and thank you, Coach, for always expanding our boundaries, man. I've had athletes reach out to me all across the state, man. and that speaks high volume. And I thank you for believing in it too at first, because like I said in the beginning, it's hard to trust in a recruiting service. And are you going to see your money stick on the wall at the end of the day? And our goal is to try to make that happen. I mean, as you see every day, that there's athletes that go unseen every year. You know, prime example is we're talking about Cherokee County earlier that beat y'all. That Jacob Cornejo kid. There's no doubt that kid should be D1. I even talked to his coach at Cherokee County, and to know that kid's going to NAIA, I think he's going to come to Energy University. It's good. He's gonna go beat up some kids for sure. That kid's a monster. And there's not many running backs you're gonna see 6'2" and about 200 pounds running a 4.5'2", I think it is. So
I do some beast. I need to watch some film on him.
Man, he can play. I had to call him. I don't know if you know this, but I called him a couple of days later after our loss, and got his number from his coach, and he's a senior, so I wasn't recruiting him. They had put us out, but I called him and told him about the Prowler, and sent your number over Preston to him. And as weird as it sounds, it was like part of my healing from that game, because that was gut wrenching. But I felt like I needed to do something because that guy does it right, and he just wasn't getting enough, man. He wasn't getting enough exposure, and I thought, man, I'd be wrong to not point him in the right direction. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, we didn't get to officially sign him on, but we definitely helped gain exposure, because a kid that good, no matter where his financial well-being is, we always want to help him try to be the right thing. And that, like I told him and his coach on the call one day, that the only reason I see him not going to the D1 level right now is because he's a 4A school, and a lot of people look down on 4A schools, and the reason that is. They think that the talent level down there is just not as much as a 6A or 7A school, you know.
Just talent everywhere. Just gotta look.
Yeah, I just met with Carryon Johnson for 3.5 hours today, and he played at the 3A school.
Yep, at Madison Academy here in Huntsville. Yep.
I think he did pretty good. So.
Yeah, he broke a lot of records at Auburn. So.
But you see a bunch of these kids. I'm sure these high school athletes see these kids. They go to these smaller schools, and then they blow up at these. They transfer and they blow up at these big D1 schools. You know, if you're good, the coach is going to find you. You just have to work hard and be consistent, and everything in your life, you just got to be consistent. You know, so.
And yeah,
our weekly. Go ahead.
Especially with that transfer portal nowadays, don't ever give up hope, because if you get in a good program and you believe in it and breathe football, you'll be found nowadays. There's no doubt about it.
Be just fine. Well, I guess with that being said, our weekly quote this week is talent sets the floor, character sets the ceiling. Bill Belichick, best NFL coach of all time. So next week we're gonna have my good buddy JJ Pegues on. He's currently at the University of Ole Miss. He's a defensive tackle there, and the conversation will be on his recruiting experience, you know, in high school, and of course in the portal for coming from Auburn and to Ole Miss. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week, and as we continue to expand the knowledge and the recruiting process, and you know how we do things here at the Prowler. So as always, Prowler up, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Coach Phillips, for coming on, and thank you, Preston, for guiding it all and doing everything you do for these athletes. So
no problem, guys.
Thanks, Gav.